Yo, today we'll go over how to pressure and mix your offense on block mid combos for mix-ups with some OK and neutral tips in Bleach Rebirth of Souls, from basics to high level concept, because they can get really advanced, which can be confusing and annoying, especially for new players if you don't know what's happening. Going from this to this. Hopefully this video will remain as a foundation of pressure in this game even through future patches and changes, unless there are big updates for that, but we'll be here. So pressure is whenever you hit them on block. Every move has startup and recovery to it, which I don't know why the game doesn't show proper frame data. Quicks are characters' fastest attacks and safe on block, and flashes are slower but more range with more damage. Usually the second flash string is highly negative on block that makes it punishable. That's why if you poke with a flash, doing flash quick to stay safe on block is so common. Hakugeki is higher priority with more range but even slower, but is even more negative, so that's how attacks progress in this game. The first thing to understand is frame traps and moves that are plus. Moves that are minus means they can hit you before you can hit them, so plus is opposite. If you're plus, you can use your first quick attack that would hit them before their quick attack hits you. These can change depending on your character's state, like Bankai Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho that becomes plus in his SP2 Getsuga Aura state. Frame traps are very small gaps between two different attacks. There's a gap, meaning they can interact, but the gap is very small, only big enough for their attack to start up, but not big enough for it to become active, so you counter hit them. This includes things like backstep. Here we see it with Noritora and Bankai Ichigo step quick into quick, which is a common frame trap, but it can be from signatures or other tools, and some characters can actually slow down their attack strings, like Bankai Ichigo charging his Getsuga slightly, or even slowing down quicks and flashes, like Kenpachi's tilt flash follow-up when awakened to give it a manual gap and thus a frame trap. A universal frame trap is flash, where you're unsafe so opponents are ready to match, but you do a delayed Hakugeki that acts like a frame trap to hit them out of their attack. Similarly, there are moves that can be stepped. Sidestep during pressure to avoid matches, or backstep. Usually there are more moves that are backsteppable than sidesteppable, but sidesteps leave you closer, although more inconsistent because of varying hitboxes in the game. There are also tick throws, which are grabs that can be used after a physical attack that grabs them through their attacks. So it grabs them through their mashes, so they'd have to tech, which is pressing grab, to counter your grab. Something to note is that throws in general got nerfed, so there are less tick throws now since you need to be a lot closer. To tech a grab, you actually have a long window. You can tap your own throw even after you see them grabbing you, which is the ideal window. Held grabs work differently in this game, having different startup. It doesn't grab right away and has extended travel time for as long as you hold it. Holding the grab button may be why you aren't teching throws in games though, so make sure these closed ones are just tapped. There are also fuzzy teching, which is basically blocking and then delay tapping the grab while still blocking. If they don't grab, you keep blocking. If they do grab, then your delayed attack comes out. So it's like an option select in the FGC. Every character has different properties for these, so you need to check them. I recommend first checking against a character like Byakuya, Dangai Ichigo, or Awakened Rukia, although she has limited range, who are some of the characters with the fastest quick attacks in the game. So you set them to guard all and counter after blocking with quick. The bot counter setting is kind of bad, especially if you have 3 options. It can kind of bug out though, so you can also do the recording thing where you press up and then record right away, and then press up again to save the recording. Then while you're hitting them during block, you can press down when they're leaving blocks, and so it comes out earlier. And you can set that to slot 1 or slot 2 in the counter attacks as well. So yeah, check your main character's frame data on all of their tools in all of their forms, from base to awaken to other special states. Check every attack, check if they can be frame trapped, if they can be tick throwed, if they can be sidestepped, so from quicks, flashes, signatures, charge moves, tilts, special flashes, follow-ups, SPs, everything. Like 1000 Year Blood War, Ichigo, Yuhabaha, and Unohana are examples with a plus on block first quick attack, so they can reset that first quick attack as long as they're in range, which can also tick throw if they're close enough. Yuhabaha gets a bit worse in Awaken, better in Almighty, but his is better than 1000 Year Blood War Ichigo's because it has more range to repeat on block, whereas Ichigo kind of spaces himself out after like 2 or 3. Someone like Toshiro can kind of continue after his third quick on slower characters, especially online, being pseudo plus on block. An example of an SP attack being plus on block is Kenpachi's. When he's in Awaken, his SP1 gets plus on block, which is cool. Unohana's step quick into quick can true string, but is an example of one that can be manually delayed to frame trap here. For frame traps like Kenpachi, he's able to heavily delay his special flash follow-up to frame trap. You have Toshiro with flashes to SP2 that kind of acts like a frame trap. Very committal though. An example of a state that changes your moves is Grimjaw when he's in his annihilation phase that's triggered from his SP2, which turns his tilt flash into plus on block. Besides the fast quick attack characters, you can lab against specific matchups you know you'll face, or against meta characters characters you'll see in ranked online, since they can all have minor differences to them. Like you might be able to sidestep one character's quick but not someone else's, especially because sidesteps is probably the most inconsistent pressure tool character to character in the game. A universal frame trap and plus frame situation is with the new follow-up flash step on block. You can flash step attacks on block to keep you safe after the 1.40 patch. So the flash delayed Hakugeki mind game is even stronger, since if they block the Hakugeki and you thought they wouldn't, you can spend some reverse to follow flash step. This follow-up can even frame trap depending on the character and depending on the attack, having different timings to it with different cancel windows. And this tends to be plus on block afterwards too, since you spend resources, but not for everyone. For some characters, they can't actually continue pressure after this follow-up. So again, check for every attack, since someone like Nell's tilt flash can't get the block follow for some reason. And as you can see here though, Dangai isn't really plus after his follow for some reason as well. This one can be a bit harder to check if it's plus on block or if it frame traps. So what you can do is manually have the bot record this function against you and then have you block the played recording and then experiment from there. The last thing to note is pushback. On all of these moves, there's pushback, which can keep you in range to pressure or push you out of range. What's nice about pushback though is that if it pushes you out, it can also outspace their attacks. So you wait while they whiff in front of you, where a flash for extended range can punish for huge damage. Even if you aren't plus on that move, it's actually better if you're minus on an attack that pushes them out, since they're more inclined to challenge her since you're technically minus. Then bam, they miss and get countered. And that's part of footsies as known in the FGC. So if you can manually discover what attacks push you out of range of most quicks, and you develop the spatial awareness on pokes from neutral, you can lure them into trying to attack you. This depends on the range of their quicks, since some characters have very large quick attacks, so spaced out pressure isn't as good against them, but still possible. But against most, what tends to happen is that if they whiff with their quick attack, they try to mash with their flash attack, since it has extended range, which can actually hit you. Which you should also be doing if they're trying to outspace you out. Flash will punish and reach if they space you out. But in turn, what happens is that you may be able to go into your faster quick attacks to counter their slower flash attack and try to make up for that range, even if you are at a disadvantage because you anticipated their read. So basically, after spacing them out, their quick will miss where your flash hits. Their flash would hit you before your flash, since you're minus. Your quick will beat their flash though, and if you're not spaced out enough, their quick will be your flash. And that's the whole mind game to manage spaced out strings that aren't plus. And you can get really mean with it by being right at the edge or not being at the edge and abusing fake pressure, abusing fake spaced out, but they might think you're spaced out but you're really not. It can get really interesting. Layer 2 to add on to this is your side steps that I want to talk a bit more about. So which quick attacks reverse that can dodge through their mashes. Side steps are better than back steps because if you dodge it, then you're within range to hit them with a quick or even a grab sometimes, mostly held grabs. Back steps are nice to reset back to neutral if you know you're safe. However, things like flash attack may hit back and side steps since it's kind of slower and kind of tracks to where you are. But again, quick attacks beat their flashes, so going back to that mind game. Held grabs though with this tracking can also beat back steps or regular side steps too. And if you're close enough, regular grabs can beat you too. So this is an example where held grabs can become stronger, but quick attacks kind of beat that as well. And remember, even your tick throws go through these held grabs, so that's how you counter that. It's interesting because as you get more advanced, this can help you alter your timings, adding multiple steps and different tools after showing them you can sidestep there. Alright, so all this was the foundation, how to handle someone who's just mashing, how to beat their attacks or force them to continue blocking. This is why you may see those longer block strings on block that leads to guard breaks, because the pressure is so good and impressive. If you are good at pressure though. If you're bad at pressure, then the opposite could happen where they always counter you on your turn. Guard breaks are nice, but you ideally want to get into your grabs, especially since this game gives you so much damage from grabs, and then they'll try to wiggle out more out of your grabs. So besides tick throws, you can add grabs or shimmies to break patterns from over respect. Shimmies are using your steps to grab. You can stop your patterns to get closer for a step grab to be in range, but more importantly, you can bait grab techs with backstep. Most people tech very early, especially in mix-ups that we'll see, but things like tick throws that are close but repeat the same patterns and then doing a backstep instead after they tech it because they're mashing the grab they expect it to come, you may see a lot of these whiffed grabs to happen. So shimmies are great to handle fuzzy tech grabs as well. This works with characters with fast steps, and then after backstepping to whiff their grab, you can forward step to grab punish them as well. Or better yet, with someone who can still reach with flash attack from this backstep range. So you get huge damage, and even if you're wrong and they don't whiff a grab tech, you still continue your turn and continue your pressure, since flash quick can go back into something safe. And this is also an effective way to counter mashes for some characters if they keep mashing. You're within range with their flash. So backsteps are key to run your overall layer of managing the grab situation and throw and baits. Against really strong opponents, multiple steps again can act as baits, like double backdashes, since dash into quick is another pursuit to beat backdashes, but then you can double backdash them trying to forward dash you. Or backdash step forward backdash again. So they'll think the grab is coming on that step 4, but then you do double bait to backdash. So shimmies are limitless depending on your skill level and mind layers. And again, keep in mind how held grabs can call these shimmies out though. So managing those concepts are already enough to build really good pressure, but a key layer is this fourth one, flash step. Flash step kind of behaves as your frame 1 counter in this game. It counters frame traps fully, attacks from plus frames, and grabs, including tick throws. So it's like an option select to handle all these different options defensively. It's a huge call out. It's really good to use when your guard gauge is going down if you notice them repeating the same patterns again and again because you don't want to get your guard broken. And as the person pressuring, you must be aware of their reverse gauge. Obviously, if they have none, you don't have to worry about this universal reversal, and thus you can get more oppressive reign over your pressure. I think that's why the game should buff defense a little bit to give you a meterless frame 1 like push block or something like that, but still, because if they do have it, it counters you, but doing nothing and walk back is an amazing bait. From there, some characters have true punishes with a quick on reaction to their flash step. If not, then practice backstepping them to avoid the flash step quick or flash step grabs while draining the reverse resource. This is why you see a lot of great players that are pressuring then suddenly just stop and walk back. And if you yourself find yourself overblocking, don't forget to flash step as well, although online can make this tricky sometimes. Similarly, during your own pressure, if you do something minus or committal, not only can flash step follow-up help you to extend with a frame trap or plus frame, but you can also delay it at times, like after 3 quicks to get a flash step counter if they try to attack in any way. Ideally, you don't want to do this excessively since you want to preserve your resources while draining theirs, since it's a battle for resource, but is an easy and common day 1 strategy. Same as like blue reversing and then doing double flash steps to kind of shimmy them, but that's not really maximizing your reverse. Similarly, there are SP attacks that are reversals, giving you armor to manage all of these pressure options like frame traps, grabs, etc. They cost spiritual power, SP, so being aware of their SP and which characters have a DP or reversal is necessary. Like Bankai Ichigo's SP1 for 50 SP is a reversal. Toshiro needs 100 though because his SP2 is a reversal, but you also have counters from Yoruichi, Shuhei, and more. So keep an eye on their SP if they have enough and be aware of who has them. Then just attack and do nothing to bait it out, especially on plus frames where they tend to be used the most. And the thing is, this one is much less safe than flash step. Flash step you can flash step and block, but this one, if you block it, you get a full punish on it most of the time because they're heavily minus. And sometimes your grabs can even go through these. Blue reverse is mostly for combo breakers, but you can see this being used to replenish guard gauge if they're close to losing it and resets you to neutral. Although flash step is still preferred since it's safer, but is something worth noting. We'll see more of this for mix-ups. The 5th layer is backstep. I kept this for last because it's the least used option, and frame traps should cover backsteps if you're tight enough, but this is the final thing you should check and use in defense. If you see their habit is to backstep, you can pursue it with a forward step into quick, which can be great, or forward step into flash as well, especially if they like to do double backsteps. And again, if you're within reach, held grab once again. And the pressure mind game between backsteppers is they might not backstep as well, so while you forward step, they might just mash, so that's just something necessary to note. So to practice, you can set up 3 options to play at random. I recommend picking between quick attack, mash, grab, and flash step. Those 3 are your main ones to manage mashes, but to also bait out grabs and understand how to punish it. So try to punish the whiffed grab as early as possible, and flash steps to get that muscle memory up. And you can customize the recordings and answers to these to whatever you want to do, even more advanced stuff like double step backs or step backs into quicks, etc. So we can bring this foundation over to mix-ups. Mix-ups are the same as pressure, but basically during a combo. Some moves change properties slightly since you carry more frame advantage, so you're more advantageous mid-combo because you're actually hitting them. These situations are where tick throws are more effective, like Kenpachi's tilt flash transforming into a tick throw mid-combo but not on block. So just like with pressure, set the bot to counter on damage. It's not as good, it's better to do the recording and manual play trick, or do the recording trick on yourself to really test your mix-ups. And again, check every tool that can be resetted into itself or tick throwed in every state of your main character. And then you can check if they can tick throw through your mashes, how to handle grabs, all that stuff. But the mix in this game is basically between grabs, quicks. Both of these can frame trap in Kenpachi's case, or baiting out their tools with backsteps to bait out their grab to make it whiff, or to bait out their quicks to counter hit it, and especially baiting out flash steps. Another easy one to understand is Thousand Year Blood where Ichigo's after his signature quick. This leaves them close enough to where you're plus for your quick attacks or grab to counter their mashes, and you play the mind game of continuing your turn while baiting the grab tech for huge damage and managing flash steps. So if you counter them with quick or grab to get a combo, the next time you try it and you see them tech the grab, that's when you know the 3rd time you should backstep to try to bait something out and shimmy. Now this Ichigo mix only works with the grab when awakened, it doesn't work in base form, but you can still go for the plus frames on quick attack in base form, which is pretty dope being awakened only honestly, but that's why mix-ups that leave you closer or rely on steps like Gins are more effective to guarantee being in range. So some characters are like this with tick throws after specific attacks, and others are like Gin with character specific stuff. So Gin, when he's an awakened, he can get into Shinso cancel mix where he can grab, backstep counter to bait, shimmies, and more, having some of the best mix-ups. And his priority is trying to get those shimmies to land his flash attacks because he deals so much damage. And even Uno Hana getting some mix-ups after signature quicks. A weaker universal string is just going into your quick string into another set of quick attacks, because that leaves you close where you can continue into quick since you have advantage, but you don't want these because it's such low damage and easy to counter, but has its place I guess. Something interesting for some characters mix-ups I want to add is if they rely on steps like Gin, held steps or held dashes can be used to get different frame advantages and variations. Sometimes it's better to finish your combo for more damage instead of resetting into a mix-up, so obviously finish your combo if you can get the kill, but also if your reverse gauge is low, you can go for a follow-up to get more reverse gauge cash back instead of being left at 0. And this applies in chain reverse as your reverse gauge is depleting, so you can use this to maximize damage and reverse gauge management, especially if you're close to killing and you can kill with a follow-up. And follow-ups mid-combo also help you to get fighting spirits on top of that to awaken. And honestly, another time to just finish your combo and avoid mix-ups is if you can't get a read on them and you're too scared of their options, that's valid, but try to get better with your mix. And unlike other games, these aren't true 50-50s, which are when you need to guess between two options. It sort of mimics strike throws in other fighting games like Grand Blue, but the grab window to tech is so much bigger than those games, so it's not a true 50-50 offline. But online, it can definitely feel like it, especially if they're good with pressure, where you feel like you're just guessing. Now for blue reverse, you can see these being used to combo break, but especially when they're about to die. So that's when it may be worth baiting if you're looking at their health, or if the reverse is replenishing about to be full. Before, you could preemptive flash step and get a counter on blue, but it no longer seems possible, but maybe if you're frame perfect. But what you can also do is a preemptive backstep if you're able to and if you're not committed mid animation. But that's why they show blue reverse when you're stuck in the middle of a combo, but you don't always get the chance to. So be careful of those and don't overcommit a yellow chain reverse if they have blue to counter anyways. Oki is when you push them away on your combo enders after SPs or follow-ups. Here you're out of range to mix, but you want to see what hits meaty. So what hits them before they can press quick and take a turn. This can change on every type of combo knockback, getting different spacing and frame advantage. So most of the time it can be a step quick, but it can also be tilt attacks, signatures, etc. Some characters are better than others can't really get a meaty, and others can only meaty on a move that's punishable on block, which doesn't make it that good since you don't want to spend reverse to make it safe, right? Just like the sections above, you want to check for mash, flash steps, etc. But a common one that occurs here is backsteps. So you want to make sure you can meaty backsteps, especially backsteps into mash. From here, if it meaty is perfect, you have your setup. But remember, flash steps do counter those though, being your universal frame 1 reversal, even white reverse into flash steps sometimes. And if you can't meaty, just keep in mind things like double steps or step into flash or any slower but more ranged attacks instead of your quicker ones to counter backsteps and mashes and stuff like that. And then it's back to the mind games as we discussed. The final thing I want to talk about is applying pressure in neutral. This is via your footsies. Whenever you enter in range of your tools, you apply pressure because the potential of that attack being used is what's being managed. So good players need to know your own character's range, but also the range of the characters you're fighting against, and that's how you become better in this game. That's why characters with a lot of range can be so hard to fight, because they're more threatening in more situations over prioritizing shorter characters who need to be sharper with their movement. What you need to do though is enter their range to bait them to use their move that works at that range and then peeling back. So you want them to whiff, and that's where you can start to whiff punish. So a simple movement pattern to understand this is things like held dash, stopping right outside of their range. And against passive players, this is great because this is when they try to counter. And then if you stop right outside of it, they whiff and then they get faked out, so you should be ready to punish. And this is basically mimicking held grab where you punish with like a quick attack, but this time you're able to manually stop. And once they see they're getting countered, just approaching into your range and using your attacks earlier than theirs to kind of confuse them between, oh, will you stop, will you continue, is where footsies can come in. And you can vary your attacks, grabs, baits, different tools that we spoke about, and different characters tools as well. At higher levels, that's where the held dash into sidestep or backstep or other variable options at different timings can come in, since the held dash is so good at manipulating your timings and rhythm and changing your patterns. And this is where the game is at its best. The only thing I wish is that sidesteps and backsteps was more consistent. Like, make the frame data of this more universal, because sometimes you do trigger the involve frames, then you get hit at the end of your sidesteps because the hitbox is so active, so that's kind of weird, especially if you're slower, right? So I don't know how they can address that. And a really nice tip is to play the mirror match of your main. So try to find someone who's good with your character and then play against them, and try to see how your character makes you feel when you're fighting them. Try to see how you can wiggle out of their pressure or how they wiggle out of your pressure, and what you need to improve at and what setups you should try to explore and improve as well. Mirror matches are also how you get better against bad matchups. So if you're struggling with someone, if you learn how to play them, that's how you'll improve at countering them, because you'll understand their strengths and weaknesses and counters. Now there are a lot more advanced concepts like taking advantage of character specific things such as armor, command grabs, SPs, signatures, counters, being close to the wall, since that can impact how sidesteps can be more limited, and a lot of characters have their own unique takes to the game. But also you should make note of the situation of the game, like if you have a huge life lead, the timer to be aware of, and how that can shape people's attitudes and approaches, and just the mental state of your opponent, like if they're getting mad or if they're very calm, and much more. And with all that being said, just make sure to note what your opponent's habits are and what they like to do, and then you can adjust and counter accordingly. If you show different patterns or understand how to manipulate repeating patterns and changing it up, and if you understand how it makes your opponent feels and what they want to do, that's how you maximize your pressure and your mind games. I just want you guys to be able to lab your own characters out by going to trainer mode, discovering your own tech, and pushing the development of every character one main at a time. And like I said, you won't always be perfect. Pressure always carries risk to it, as it's the nature of pressure. You might be wrong sometimes, but it is a human skill that you can get better at because you are facing another human. Hope you enjoyed this video, man. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.